So in this part of the video, I am going to talk about briefly, hopefully, the origin of the personality theory, the qualities that I am claiming can more accurately measure human nature. This is a big claim. However, um, once you see the differences, if you can recognize the differences in this theory, what makes it itself have a different personality, it becomes quite obvious how different and valuable this theory can be. Okay, so in this clip we're going to talk about the origin, the beginnings, and in some way these origins are similar to the qualities in a computer operating system, in that a computer operating system is somewhat like a metaphorical or electronic onion. There is a kernel, there's a core in the center, and then there's a next layer that connects to this kernel, and then that layer connects to the next layer, and so it becomes a bridge. The second layer becomes a bridge between the first and the third, and so on. Okay, so in the personality theory we're discussing, when a baby is conceived, the baby has, in a sense, the makings of a personality, similar to the way that croissants are made. Okay, and anybody who has actually watched a croissant being made knows that the person making the croissant is taking dough and flattening it and folding it over, and that makes a layer, and then flattening it and folding it over, and now there are 4 layers, and flattening it and folding it over, etc., many, many times. And now it appears to be a solid piece of dough, but when you put it into the oven and you allow it to bake, the layers puff out. In effect, the space in between the layers, or the layer content themselves, fills out with air. It fills out. In a similar way, this happens to human beings. So when a baby is born, the baby has a croissant flattened out that has 10 layers, space for 10 kinds of content, 10 patterns. But before the baby, after conception and before birth, the baby has content in only 2. And the heart of this, the kernel, is the life essence of this baby. And at the risk of scientists going, oh my God, what is he talking about? I am simply going to say that this quality is the thing that makes something living versus something non-living. Whatever that quality is, I am ignoring the some kind of definition, and I'm simply calling it the kernel. Now, that's the central part of these 10 layers. It's at the heart of them. And next to that is another layer which has an energy which connects the baby to the mother. So in the first layer, which I will number layer 10, because it is the most intense layer from 10 to 1, 10 being the most intense, and so the kernel is the most intense, like the sun itself, and so that in the kernel in that kernel we are not separate. We are connected to all things, the universe. We're part of the universe. And in the next layer that goes out, layer number 9, we are connected to other beings. And in this time in a person's life, before birth, the baby is permanently, in this time period, constantly, consistently connected to the mother and the mother to the baby. There is a bridge in place that doesn't come down. Where are the next 8 layers? Well, they haven't had any material. In a sense, life hasn't baked the croissant enough for anything to puff it out. Okay, so a kernel, number 10, and the next layer, number 9, connections to beings. Okay, so the next event in human nature that literally creates the patterns, the main pattern in human nature, is the birth separation moment. And in this moment, for the first time, a baby is separated from the mother physically. And now, so what happens? Well, in the moment that the baby first separates from the mother, in that instant, material fills out layer 8, which is a layer of non-existence. It is almost like a change from one world to another, from pre-birth to born. And then immediately the next layer is layer 7, which is the layer which contains need. So now we have 10, 9, 8, 7. We have connections to all. We are a part of the universe. We have connections to beings, each other. But it can also be beings like a teddy bear or a sense of connecting to a flower. Then we have layer 8, which is the layer of disconnection. There is no experience here. This is like the Zen meditator's empty mind. There is nothing. We don't exist. The universe doesn't exist. We don't have feelings, nothing. It's like the black hole of personality. And then there's layer 7, which is the layer of need. Now, it turns out that these 4 layers are the essence of personality. The 6 layers beyond this, we are not going to be talking about right now. Basically, those 6 layers outside of 7, 6 through 1, are different strategies for the way that we can live with, resolve, have effect on our neediness. Okay, but setting those aside, we are going to now zoom in on the 4th layer, layer 7, and here is where this personality theory begins to be very different. And so we have 4 layers, and in layer 7 there are 4 sublayers. So in the 4th layer out, there are 4 sublayers. So can you imagine that you are looking at 4 layers of an onion from the center, and there are 4 layers out, and then you zoom in with a microscope and you realize that in that outer layer of those 4 layers, if you zoom in, there are 4 subdivisions in that layer itself. Okay, these 4 subdivisions are the essence of personality. And if you were then to add in one other quality, which we'll mention later, these are the 5 qualities that I'm saying we can measure. A tremendous amount of information, and hopefully the diagram, as if you can follow the diagram, or if you need to rewind and look at it, that will be somewhat helpful. So without going into any naming of any of these things yet, other than those numbers and the very, very vague description of what each layer has contained in it, just notice how this is nested. So there are 4 layers, and they are nested. There's a kernel, which is 10, 9, 8, 7. The layers are nested, like a nesting doll, like an onion, like a croissant. And now, if you're zooming in on layer 7, you see that that nesting pattern of 4 layers continues within that one layer. There are 4 layers. And as we'll look at quite a while later, within each of those 4 sublayers, there are 4 sub-sublayers. And this pattern extends in the smaller direction and the larger direction. But this series of 3 sets of 4, 4 inside 4 inside 4, is one of the things that makes this completely different than snapshots. The pattern itself is integrated. The pattern itself is a single pattern which we can zoom in on and zoom out on and have a sense of different portions of a person's personality. Each of the qualities now that are in these layers is a measurable quality, and they all have this idea of pairs of opposites, tipping point based pairs of opposites. So, for instance, in the kernel, there is no division. So this is like the circle in the Tao symbol. It is the all. It is, and this is not to say some kind of new age mumbo jumbo. It just simply is if we have a sense of the all. When we are trying to understand the Big Bang, most people try and see the Big Bang as everything is reduced to a small dot in a big space. But were you to ask physicists if this is accurate, they would tell you quite rapidly that's not how it works at all. There is no space. And then the mind goes, but wait, where does the dot exist? This is the idea that we're trying to talk about the kernel. The kernel is the dot. And that dot is the beginning and the essence and the life essence of a person. And there is nothing separate. It is everything within the dot. Then, in this theory, the next thing, the opposite of everything is one thing, the next layer out is everything is two things, a pair, a division. And if you look at the idea of the Tao symbol again, which, by the way, is quite a bit more scientific than people realize. It's not mumbo jumbo. But if you look at the Tao symbol, now you see that there are two parts, the divisions of the content of the circle. There's a black part and a white part, and they're both contained within the one. And this is the pattern that exists within this, throughout this personality theory, that there is two that are one. There is a whole, and then there is the division into two parts. And the two parts are opposites, complete opposites. Okay, so layer 10 is everything is in one place. This is the person. And layer 9 is everything is the pattern between two places, between you and another being. In layer 8 is like the opposite of layer 10. Layer 8 is that nothing exists. Nothing exists. And everything is nothing. Whereas everything is within the dot, in layer 8 there's nothing. There's no dot. Again, this is tough for the mind to actually understand. How could that possibly be? But set that aside. It just simply is there's no experience. And then in layer 7, we then have a division, except that this time, instead of having a division of the one thing into two, we now have a division of the one thing into 4.